All right, good morning. Well, I'm Corlina McKenna, your OIT teacher specialist for high school, and we're going to be discussing Adobe Express. It is our latest platform that we have for our county. It is not rostered, so it's not like Brightspace, or if you're familiar with Nearpod or Lumio or Discover Education, those are rostered, right? They're linked to our rostering system. So Adobe Express is not rostered, which really all that means is your students they're able to log in via class link, but you don't have like a class list of students, right? So this is sort of an app that they can use, and they get in through ClassLink with that rostering service, but you don't have like a class within it. So if you're familiar with something like Discover Education, where you have a class inside of Discover Education, it's not quite like this. Now, you can still share templates and things like that with your students, and I will go over that. When I have used this with my students, what we did is everyone went into this Adobe Express, like I'm going to do with you today, and I walked them through how to make the selection of what we were going to make. Did a very brief overview, which is essentially what I'm going to do with you today. I did this with the students, and then they downloaded their file and they attached it to a Brightspace assignment, which was a file submission. The file submission requires them to attach something, so it works out really well in that regard. It won't let them turn in the Brightspace assignment without anything attached. So you just have to kind of explain to them. Downloading it is very simple on their Chromebooks. It's also very easy to download to the Chromebook, and then when they upload it to the file submission, it's very easy for them to access. Otherwise, you would deal with sharing settings, which I don't really recommend, because when they share it with you, it's just their student ID number at aacps.org, so that's not helpful unless you happen to have all your students' ID numbers memorized, which maybe you do, and that's cool. I knew a teacher once who had all of her students' birthdays memorized, so it's not out of the question, but I do not have mine memorized. So we are going to get started by going to, you're going to go to class link and find Adobe Express on Adobe Express for Education on ClassLink. I have mine pinned. You can always go up to your search bar and type in Adobe. And that is what you're going to want to click on to open. Anyone still need time finding that? You can use the reactions or your hand raise if you need more time finding Adobe Express in your class link. All right, Chris, no problem. It should push you through the login. You may see this page here, but you shouldn't need to enter any credentials or click on anything. If it does have you do that and it kind of freezes this screen and it doesn't keep going, you'll want to close the tab and reopen it through ClassLink. I'm not quite sure why it does it yet. Does anyone have any questions so far, or just need some more time? You can always drop your questions in the chat, or you can just unmute, whichever you are more comfortable with. All right, well, we are just waiting for that to load. There we go. Once you are in Adobe Express, there are a ton of templates that you can work from. There are different sizes that you can select from. Today, what we're going to do is we're actually going to make a small, basically what I have learned this quarter, sort of square post, if you will. That's going to just allow us to play with some of the features. It's also a very simple activity that you can have students do next week. We have Unity Day on Wednesday. We have early dismissals on Thursday and Friday for the end of the quarter. So we have 3 early dismissal days in a row. And I know that, at least for me, sometimes it's nice to have a small activity, something creative. I'm not collecting any more groups at that point, but I do. I always find that those are great opportunities to teach students something new, so that when you are ready to take a graded assignment and you want to use a new tool, you're ready to go. They've been exposed to it once before. You've kind of figured out the glitches. If it doesn't work for you, or you don't like it, or the kids don't like it, it's fine. The class is a little bit shorter, and you're not wasting content time. So from here, we are going to start by going to. You can click on the plus sign. That gives you some options about what you can create. Okay. I personally like to start with the custom size button. So I can click on custom size. And this is probably going to be a tad slower because I'm on both the Google Meet and Adobe. So you can, if you click on popular, usually the first one you get is the square. I personally really like using the square. The square is about the size of, it's almost the perfect size for a student's Chromebook screen, because their screens are a little bit smaller than your laptops. It also, they don't have to scroll necessarily to see it, which is also, I find, very beneficial for the students. So if you click on the square, you should then be able to click the next button, and it will open up your square. And if you all pardon me for just a second, I'm going to switch the computer I'm presenting from. Okay, does everyone have their square up? If you need more time, use your thumbs up, thumbs down. Sort of give me a reaction if you need more time, but we should be looking at our blank square. So everything in here is going to automatically save. If I want to rename my project, I can click on where it says project in the upper left-hand corner, and I can do 322 morning PD, because that's what this is. And we're going to start with this blank slate. So first thing we're going to want to do is put in a background. You can do this in one of 2 ways. You can select the background, which is going to be more, they're kind of just like repetitive or generic. If you're looking for a specific kind of image, you can also look at photos. I know that I said we were going to make something you have learned this quarter activity. So I'm going to search for a background that is relevant to my quarter, which I'm a science teacher. And this is our physics unit. So I'm going to take a look and see if there's anything I like under science. You will find that you can use any of the images in here. There are quite a lot to choose from. I can also search for physics and see if there's anything I like under that one. Once you have selected the image you like, you can click on it. If you're using background, it will automatically fill the background. Since this is an image, I can make it larger to fill up that whole page. I can also click on the image, and over on the right-hand side, I will see that I have a crop and shape tool that I can click on, which allows me to either do the original size. I can pick a ratio because I know I want a square. So I can pick that ratio square, or I can do freeform, which allows me to, custom crop. But since I was already on a square, I just went ahead and selected the square. Now I have my background. Give everyone a minute. If you need more time, now's your opportunity. We're going to go on to the next part. Okay. So we are going to add a photo here, and I'm going to show you how to add both a generic photo and an actual photo, like of you or of your students, because I think being able to include a visual for students is nice, but we also all work with older students and know that they sort of hate using actual photos. So if I go to photos, I am able to upload photos from my device. So if your students were using their Chromebooks and had taken a selfie, they would have access to that. I happen to have a photo ready to go. This is a photo of me and my co-teacher, but I want to remove the background and actually remove him as well. So I'm able to click on this photo and go over to where it says remove background and click on that. It's going to process for a moment and come back with an image that has no background, which is actually pretty neat when you think about it. But like I said, I want to get rid of Mr. Peterson. I could do this through the crop tool, or from this exact screen I'm on, I have the ability to restore or erase more of my image. I also can invert the cutout, so it would leave the background but remove me, which is kind of neat as well. So I'm going to make my eraser a little bit bigger, and I'm going to erase Mr. Peterson from this image. You can see that it's coloring him in red. And when I feel good about that, I'm going to click the check mark. So I have a little image of me, right? Now, you may not have an image of you on your computer, which is totally fine. One option I think for this that works really well is to go to your photos and type in microphone, right? Because we're talking about, students thinking. And you can select any of these microphones that you like, but we're going to go through the same process. So I'm going to select this microphone, and I'm going to click that remove background button. This has removed the background. I like the way that looks, and I'm going to click my done check mark. Questions or need me to show that again? This is probably one of the neatest tools. I've used it a lot recently. I just get like a blank square, put an image I need, remove the background, and then put it in things like Wixie or even a Google folder that students can pull from. And then they have really cool PNGs for it. This is no background they have to remove. All right, no questions? Okay. So we can make either one of these images pop, if you will. They are on a dark background. I'm going to lower this. These have all the functionality that you would expect from a photo editing tool, right? I can click on my image. Over on my right-hand side, I see I can flip the image, sort of any directions. I also have some effects, which we are about to deal with. So I want to make myself sort of pop. I can actually do a background layer if I wanted. So if I click on myself, and I can use the keyboard shortcut Control-D, that's a duplicate shortcut. What that's going to do is give me two of myself. Now, you've probably noticed that on the right-hand side, I have now started to create layers. I can click on this and I can start to see all of the layers that I have. And I can change my layers by just click which layer I'm working with by just clicking on the layer itself. I can also move them like that. But I'm going to click on the picture of me that is underneath. All right, and I'm going to go over here to filters. This duotone is kind of a really neat filter. You can select other kind of duotones. But what I want to do is I actually want to make myself a color, right? So I'm just going to change both of these to be the same color. Whoops. Sorry, give me just a second. Grab that. Try to get that same blue. And I can click out of it. So you can see I have created this blue. I am now blue, which is basically like creating a shadow for myself. All right. I can move it. Just makes you pop a little. So if you added the microphone, you can do the same thing with that microphone. So I will repeat those steps. That was using, I clicked on the microphone and used the keyboard shortcut Control D, right, to give me 2 microphones. I then made sure that I had the microphone that was behind my microphone selected, and I did that over here on the right-hand side with layers. And I selected filters and made sure that my colors were the same in both of these boxes. So that now I have this sort of color echo, if you will. Next, we're going to add a couple text boxes, and then we are just about done. Any questions so far? If you wanted to delete the background. So if it was an image, you can just click on it and press delete because it was just an image. Or if you are dealing with the background, you can select a different one or go over to your bottommost layer. You can choose a solid color or you can choose an image. So either way, if it's just an image, you can just click on it and press your delete button. If you're using the actual background layer, you just click on that. How do I crop my coworker out of the image? So when you did the remove background, you were also able to erase or restore. So I was able to erase. I just used, when I put my mouse over the image, it gives me this circle. I was able to just sort of color over him. And that removed him. All right, let's add we're going to add some shapes, and then we're going to put text inside of those shapes. So I have my shapes tool. And I'm going to go to basic shapes right up here, and I'm going to click more. Anytime you see more, there's going to be more categories to choose from. And I'm going to go to my speech. I'm going to scroll down until I see speech bubbles. Now, in this case, I'm going to use 2 different shapes. I'm going to use this one, and then I'm going to select a speech bubble that I like. And I'm going to put this one up at the top because I'm going to write inside of this one. One thing I learned this quarter was, and then I'm going to have my speech bubble ready to be filled in with what I learned this quarter. Right? Now you can edit your borders. You can make your borders, you know, thinner or thicker. You can change the colors. I'm not going to worry too much about my colors right now because I've got a trick for that at the end that I will show you. But I will make them match my background. Okay. I did, when I click on them, you can see I am able to adjust their size and width, and you can just sort of take a guess. I'll show you when we add text, there's actually literally a magic button you push that makes all the text fit in a given shape. Just to remind us, that was using the shapes tool, and we went to basic shapes and then speech bubbles. Any other questions? Anyone want me to hold on? All right. I'm gonna keep moving. Remember, there will be a recording of this because we have about 10 minutes left, but we are almost done. So on the left-hand side, I'm gonna use my text tool on this left-hand side and click the Add Your Text button. This is going to tell me to double click to add text. One of the unique things to realize about Adobe is that when you click on your text box, where you edit your text is actually over here on the right-hand side. So one thing I learned this quarter was I can adjust the size of my text over here on the right-hand side. Right? That made it too small. But I am able to change its shape a little bit, drag it around. And what's really, I think, one of my favorite parts about Adobe is if I scroll down on this right-hand side, I'm actually given samples of a bunch of other fonts that I could be using in place of this one. So it's really easy for me to swap between different fonts and kind of see what they would look like right here on the right-hand side. So I think I kind of like this handwriting one. Next, we are going to add our another text box, which it's going to save. It's going to save the font that we used previously. But this time, because the students are going to edit this part, I'm going to go over to the right-hand side where it has this kind of circle made of littler circles, and click on that. And under Magic, there's this button that says capitalize and fit. So if I click on that, as students text or as students type, the size and shape of the font will change to fit the space, which is actually kind of neat. Again, you can, if you want to change the way that what that font will look like in that space, it does allow you to do that. So I'm going to delete that and put back, double click to edit. And they would be able to double click to edit that. I'm going to put my physics picture back in here. All right, so we are just about done, right? I mean, that is the whole project. Okay, but I will show you this really neat feature. This is the original one, which you maybe like a lot, but I'm going to ask that at the bottom here, you click on the duplicate page button. So now we have two, right? If I click on this button, I can see that I have 2 pages and they're the exact same. I click back on that same page and I'm on the second one. If I go to this color up here in the upper right-hand corner and click on that, it's actually going to give me a bunch of different color palettes. I really like the classic color palette, but if I click on it, what it will do is actually change the color palettes that are being presented on my screen. And if I click this little shuffle button, I can shuffle which of those colors are the dominant colors, right? So it's a really nice way to kind of see other options without sacrificing your original design. Now, let's say I really like this blue. I can go back and click on my little duotone and filter, and what I will find is those colors are now in my palette, because that is the current palette I'm using, which is nice. Sort of helps you stay in that right palette. I can compare, do I like this one or this one better? If the one I don't like, right, I didn't really like this, turns out I like the second one better, I can just remove that and I'm left with this particular layout. Now, to download, you have the upper right-hand corner, you can download the PNG and you would start downloading. Okay, that's going to put it on your device. But over here on the share button, we are almost done. I'm going to point out these things. You can make it a template. You also will notice that you can send to Google Drive or share to Google Classroom. I don't recommend using any of these lower three. They involve very specific settings for them to be able to work for the students. And since the students are already on a Chromebook, it's already saving to their Google Drive. So they don't really need to send it to the Google Drive. All right, they can simply download it and it gets sent to their Google Drive because they're on a Chromebook. Now, for you, if you wanted to make this a template, you can, right? You would name it. Now, I should say, if I was making it a template, I probably wouldn't have a picture of myself, but the students could always change it, or you could just have the microphone there. But I'm going to call it One Thing I Learned. You can create a library. I'm just going to call it Things I've Learned, and I can save template. Now, here's where I'm going to explain something to you, and when I send you the recording of this session, I will include another video that, oh, it doesn't like my apostrophe. I'm going to send you another video that will show you how to share your library. But now that I put it in my library, when I go to library, I will see that I have this library. Well, my asset's not there yet, but it should be. Oh dear. So let's save, make a template. All right, it says saved, everything automatically saves. So I'm going to go back to my home, click on libraries, and then it should be in here. Now, you can share this library with students by going to this invite button. The easiest way to do this is to copy and paste all of their emails into this add people button. And I know what you're thinking, that sounds crazy, but you can actually use PowerSchool to get a list of all your students' emails in an Excel spreadsheet, and you can just copy and paste them in. So that is, I will send you a short video on how to go into PowerSchool, pull your ID numbers, turn them into the emails. It takes about a minute and a half. I think maybe 2 minutes, because you'll have to pause the video, but the video's about a minute and 15 seconds to kind of explain it. But you can put them all into here. That's going to give all of your students access to your library, which then when they hover over it, it'll say use this template. They can get to it by going to their libraries, and it should be there. Or they'll have a notification on the bell where they can accept the library. But that is the easiest way I found my students to share the library with them, is just to put in all of their emails. I use this one-pager library with them. You can see all of my students' emails pop up when I go to invite. So they have access to that. That's kind of your crash course in Adobe Express. I hope, I need to post my, don't leave quite yet. I need to post my attendance link. And also, we are doing a bit of a competition at the moment. where we are having students create motivational posters using their school's Terrapin. If your school doesn't have a Terrapin, we have a folder of pictures of the Terrapin that we keep at Carver that your students are welcome to use. So I will also drop that in the link and send it in the email. If you want your students to do that, it's a great activity to do next week. Attendance link. If you give me just 1 second, I will pull up that information. So if you don't mind filling out that attendance link, I would greatly appreciate it. The session name, I think, was actually Brightspace Escape Rooms, but I switched it last minute because we got this approved, and I wanted to make sure that everyone got a chance to see it. So I'm going to drop one more thing in